The essence of airmanship. You might ask yourself, what exactly does that mean? Well, we're going to define airmanship in this presentation and show how it has contributed to today's safety culture. My name is Matthew Johnson, and I will be presenting a research project on the essence of airmanship to the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University Worldwide Campus in partial fulfillment of the requirements of the Aeronautical Science Capstone Course ASCI 490 for the Bachelor of Science in Aeronautics degree. After a series of accidents in the 1970s, it was discovered that 70 to 80% of all aviation accidents are caused by human error alone. However, it's not practical to eliminate human factors from aviation altogether. Rather, we must find ways to mitigate these inevitable traits by implementing a proactive and predictive posture. We have done just that by introducing safety models and training programs, but have these models and programs been successful? The intention of this research project is to answer this question and recommend how we can continue trends of a decreasing accident rate once it has been established. In order to institute a conclusion to our hypothesis that the skies are safer with developed safety models and programs, we must first have quantified data. In order to alleviate inaccurate results, departure rates include all worldwide registered aircraft. Similarly, the accident rates were obtained from a worldwide database of any aircraft accident that resulted in a hull loss. Various programs were used to analyze and illustrate these statistics. StatCrunch and Microsoft Excel were used to generate dot charts and line graphs. Additionally, some equations were utilized to support findings throughout the study. The research conducted for this project was quite interesting. With a significant increase in yearly departure rates, the accident rate decreased significantly as well from 1980 to the present time. However, the results would have to have a reference point to obtain an accurate conclusion. To do this, the departure rates were broken down into millions, and the accident rate was recognized per million departures. This would establish a common denominator throughout the years in which we can compare the accident rate. Most importantly, these figures would align with a transition to a proactive safety culture and technological advancements. As these findings indicate, with a significant increase in departure rates combined with employing a new focus towards human factors and technology, a uniform decline is presented in aircraft accident rates that align with the specific time frames in which human factor safety models and programs were implemented. Effective airmanship has a solid foothold on the aviation industry. During the Wright brothers' quest to invent the airplane, they built on knowledge from their predecessors. When faced with miscalculations and the absence of efficient lift, the Wrights would construct a wind tunnel to improve the characteristics of the wing. The knowledge that the Wright brothers sought was equally as important as the knowledge gained. Through hard work and scientific know-how, they would arguably be the first credible contributors to defining the essence of airmanship. The exceptional airmanship that the Wrights illustrated could not prevent the first fatality in an airplane. On September 17, 1908, Orville Wright and Lieutenant Selfridge were conducting a demonstration in the Wrights' flying machine. Part of the propeller separated from the aircraft and resulted in an uncontrollable nose-down attitude. Although Orville would obtain substantial injuries, he would live to see another day. Lieutenant Selfridge would not be so lucky. He became the first person to die in an aircraft. His death demonstrated that human flight was not without hazard. If there was to be a successful industry in aviation, consideration must be taken towards the safety of flight. Legislation played a big part in the increasing popularity of the aviation industry as well. In 1925, the Airmail Act, also known as the Kelly Bill, awarded contracts to commercial carriers to deliver mail. Slowly but surely, passengers would accompany these mail routes for a substantial fee. In 1926, the Air Commerce Act established improvements in navigation and air traffic control and further promoted the aviation industry. Charles Lindbergh significantly invested in the industry's popularity by completing the first solo transatlantic flight in 1927. Social acceptance was on the rise and would soon offer borderless destinations. Although the popularity of commercial flight was increasing rapidly, so too were the dangers associated with flight, specifically weather and nighttime operations. In 1929, Lieutenant James Doolittle conducted the first instrument flight without reliance on external cues. Psychological research would help provide the structure for instrument flying, and the study of human factors began to play an important role in aviation safety. The Boeing 307 would significantly contribute to globalized pressurized flight. Constructed of various B-17 parts, the Stratoliner could fly above the weather altitudes that so often contributed to aircraft accidents, providing a significant contribution to commercial airliners. The jet age would soon offer a considerable increase in aviation popularity. This popularity was accompanied by complications in air traffic as the skies became more crowded. In 1956, a TWA Constellation and a United Airlines DC-7 collided in mid-air over the Grand Canyon and scattered wreckage over the canyon's floor, resulting in 128 fatalities. The increasingly crowded skies would be more than the Civil Aeronautics Administration was capable of managing. In 1958, Congress passed the Federal Aviation Act, creating the Federal Aviation Agency. The agency was responsible for regulating aviation, establishing an effective air traffic control system, and promoting aviation safety. The Department of Transportation was established in 1966 and assumed responsibility for the Federal Aviation Agency and reorganized the agency to become the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA. Additionally, the Department of Transportation inherited the National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB. However, a conflict of interest in aviation safety and regulations would result in the NTSB establishing its own entity in 1974. During this time frame, a shift in safety considerations converted a reactive industry into one with a proactive and a predictive posture. The shell model examines the interactions between variables associated with the operator. Please direct your attention to the shell illustration presented. The center L stands for liveware and is surrounded by S, H, E, and another L to indicate interactions between the operator and the variables that surround them. S stands for software and depicts the interaction between the operator and regulations, procedures, and policies. The H stands for hardware and portrays the interaction between the operator and associated hardware. The E stands for the environment in which the operator is exposed, such as weather or flight deck operations. As the final element to the shell model, the L represents interactions between liveware and liveware, a very important element to crew resource management. James Reason's Swiss cheese model has been a highly effective method of achieving a proactive and a predictive safety culture within the aviation industry. The person approach is an action that is initiated from a frontline operator, such as a pilot. The system approach contains latent conditions or elements within a chain of events that could have prevented an active failure from occurring. The Swiss cheese model has defenses or barriers against reaching an active failure. These barriers are organizational influences, unsafe supervision, and preconditions for unsafe acts. Vulnerabilities within these barriers can potentially allow a chain of events to originate and maintain momentum, resulting in the operator's exposure to an unsafe act. The Human Factors Analysis and Classification System, or HFACS, builds on the Swiss cheese model by expanding each barrier with subcategories, further allowing the breakdown and analysis of potential vulnerabilities. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration hosted a workshop in 1979 entitled Resource Management on the Flight Deck in an attempt to combat the abundance of accidents that had recently occurred. From this workshop, the first generation of Crew Resource Management, or CRM, was introduced to the aviation industry. United Airlines would be the first to employ CRM, and it became a crucial element for aircrew training. The basic concept of CRM is to employ all resources and maintain effective communication while maintaining situational awareness, allowing for improved decision making. United Airlines Flight 232 experienced a catastrophic failure of the DC-10's tail-mounted engine, resulting in the total loss of hydraulics and flight controls. The only means of control were the throttles. However, due to the crew's excellent use of CRM, 185 lives were saved. The captain and the crew utilized all available resources and transformed an impossible situation to one with a little hope of survival. Flight 232 is a prime example of the effectiveness of CRM. Kern's Airmanship model is another exceptional safety device to establish situational awareness and effective judgment in decision making. However, to obtain these necessities, the bedrock principles and the pillars of knowledge must be acquired. Let's look at the bedrock principles. An effective airman must possess discipline to establish skills that lead to proficiency. In order to obtain exceptional situational awareness, the airman must master the pillars of knowledge by experience and education relating to themselves, the aircraft, teamwork, the environment, and risk management. All of these elements provide the resources required to obtain effective airmanship. Let's dig into some of the statistics used in this project that help solidify conclusive findings to the hypothesis. First, let's look at the aircraft departure rates. This figure illustrates any worldwide departure from a registered aircraft. The visual representation of this figure illustrates a significant increase in aircraft departures from 1980 to the present. By finding the slope of the data presented, we obtain an average of 658,280 new departures every year. Now let's look at the worldwide aircraft accidents that resulted in a hull loss. This figure goes back to 1918 to illustrate the leftward skew presented by World War II, the gentle rise during the Jet Age, and a significant decline that began in the mid-1980s. Keep in mind that we want to correlate this decline in accidents with a significant increase in departures by time frame. The intention of this project is to compare the departure rates with the accident rates on a level playing field. We must first obtain a common denominator to achieve this. The departure rates were broken down into millions, and the accident rate was calculated using Microsoft Excel to depict the accident rate per million departures. By doing so, we can observe the accident rate throughout the years without the skew of the dramatic increase in departure rates. As illustrated by this table, the accident rate from 1981 to 2014 shows a substantial decline. This figure offers a visual representation of the declining accident rate per million departures. The decrease in accident rates per million departures can be attributed to the implementation of human factor safety models, new technology, and how training programs such as CRM help combat obstacles of introducing new technology, such as complacency and an over-reliance of technology. All of these safety models and training programs that we have discussed in this presentation contribute to good airmanship, and in some cases, good airmanship increases the efficiency of the programs. Essentially, good airmanship minimizes the probability of an aircraft accident caused by human factors. This, in turn, is the essence of airmanship. The aviation industry's future encompasses a new transition with the introduction of technology associated with next-gen. It is expected that some of this technology could introduce new challenges towards complacency and over-reliance on technology. There has been remarkable improvements towards the safety of the aviation industry, and continuing to develop methods to combat an evolving industry is essential. Specifically, I believe a pinpointed focus should be directed toward the human factors involved in complacency and over-reliance on technology. Safety models, training programs, and new technology have been remarkably successful in reducing the probability of an aircraft accident caused by human factors. Additionally, the industry has illustrated its ability to evolve with a changing environment. Although we've only been aviators for around 112 years, we have remarkably achieved the ability to build on past mistakes to minimize the probability of reoccurring accidents. Airmanship is somewhat difficult to define and often presents differing definitions per individual. Whatever airmanship means to you, or however you achieve the goal of situational awareness and good judgment, always remember to exert a 100% effort to obtain and maintain the professionalism that the aviation industry and good airmanship demand. Again, my name is Matthew Johnson, and I thank you very much for viewing this presentation, and always remember, fly safe.